Hello everyone, Razorblade Mango here, and today I wanted to talk about the fifth and hopefully final movie in the legendary Indiana Jones series, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So, this is a movie that I've been dreading for some time ever since they announced that Lucasfilm was being bought by Disney. I have been dreading this day where, especially after how they've been treating the Star Wars series for the most part, I've been waiting for the inevitable day when they were going to dig up the already rotted corpse of the Indiana Jones franchise and stick some puppet strings on it and make it dance once again for what they assume is our amusement, but to my absolute horror, because I am a massive fan of the original trilogy. I love all three of them, especially Raiders and Temple of Doom. I have loved this series ever since I first saw Temple of Doom when I was about 4 or 5. I've watched all three of them many, many times over the years, especially Raiders and Temple of Doom. I consider all three of them to be beautifully crafted works of art, and not. It always bothers me when people disregard these movies, or they like them or they love them, but they talk about them in terms like, oh, they're dumb schlock, or they're just dumb, silly action movies. I don't think they're dumb. I don't think they're schlock. I think all three of them, I think, are made with such love and expert craft that they hold up remarkably even to this very day. All three of those movies have so many iconic moments. You have Harrison Ford in his prime doing what he was put on this planet to do. You've got the special effects, which are so cool in all three of them. Most of them hold up. Even today, they look great. All the characters are all fun. All the villains are really cool and interesting. And then, like many people, I was looking forward to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when that got announced. And boy, oh boy, was that a prime case of be careful what you wish for, because that movie sucked. It sucked. And now, after, 15 years after that? Oh my god. We are now at Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And I must admit, now that I've had about a week to marinate on this, Dial of Destiny is not the unbelievable train wreck I was expecting. But is it good? No. Is it mediocre? No. It's pretty crap. It's a crap movie. It's another big wet fart in modern Lucasfilm's never-ending parade of big wet farts nowadays. But is it worse than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? Well, hey, I've always said, if ever since this fifth Indiana Jones movie was announced, I've said that if there's one studio that can make a worse Indiana Jones movie than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's the hacks that run modern Disney and Lucasfilm. So my answer to that is yes. I do think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is slightly less crap than Dial of Destiny. Dial of Destiny is crap in a different way than Crystal Skull was. Crystal Skull was crap because it was just a series of really bad decisions as far as the usage of special effects, how the story went, what characters were in it. It was just a series of bad decisions that went into that one. Dial of Destiny sucks because it is simply boring. And that's the one thing that I'm struck with now that it's been almost a week since I've seen it. I really cannot believe how boring I found the Dial of Destiny to be. this movie, pretty much to me, it is the antithesis of what an Indiana Jones movie should be. Whereas the old Indiana Jones movies were, they were short. They were maybe like sub 2 hours or less. They relied on practical effects. They were made quick. They were made dirty. They were made cheap by today's standards. And then here comes Dial of Destiny that has an ungodly budget of about $250 to $300 million, and that's without marketing, which I assume balloons the budget up to something like $550 to $600 million. And it's overly long at a ridiculous 2.5 hours, or a little bit more than 2.5 hours. And it has this over-reliance on this boring-looking CGI, and I don't know how you make an Indiana Jones movie feel so lifeless and flat, but those hacks at modern Lucasfilm found a way. They found a way. I almost consider it a skill to make an Indiana Jones movie boring. That's how badly you have to be at this. And I'm really convinced that ChatGPT or something wrote this film, and then an AI directed the shots and did the editing. When I watch this movie, I get no sense of human involvement behind the camera. If it were to be revealed later that this whole movie was generated by an AI, I really would believe it. I know that sounds like a lot of hyperbole, and I definitely know objectively there was human involvement with it. But the way it's directed and edited so flatly and boring, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that there was some kind of human involvement in this movie. And the big reason why is that the thing that should be the main driving force of an Indiana Jones movie, which is the action, it sucks. The action in this movie is just bland and boring and pulseless. It is the flaccid penis of action scenes. These suck. They look even worse when you compare them to the previous films. And this is in a series that is iconic for some of its set pieces. You have the truck chase in Raiders of the Lost Ark. You have the minecart chase in the Temple of Doom. You have the tank battle in Last Crusade. And those are just 3 examples of like the more I could list off. And I think an issue too is that, and this is surprising because James Mangold is a talented director. I love Logan. I like some of the other movies he's done, like Ford versus Ferrari, Walk the Line, 3:10 to Yuma. The guy has made plenty of good movies in the past. But because now he's under the watchful eye of the annoying, soulless overlords that are modern Lucasfilm and Disney, it's like all the talent just gets sucked right out of him. And even at his best, and this is something I will say, even at his best with James Mangold, the reason James Mangold is not a good fit for Indiana Jones, now that I've seen Dial of Destiny, is that because he is not Spielberg. He is especially not 80s Spielberg, who knew how to expertly blend comedy and action. And this, to me, this movie exemplifies how hard it is to make a great action scene, because without expertly blending together things like setup, payoff, micro moments, little bits of comedy, little punches of things that make the scenes memorable. Without all that, you have the action scenes in Dial of Destiny where they are just a car chase and it's boring, or it's a shootout, which is boring, or it's a fight and a chase on some like dumb looking CGI train. And it's just boring. It's just... Sorry. I'm sorry. James Mangold is not Steven Spielberg. He's not. And in a few years, I simply want to ask anyone who likes Dial of Destiny, I just want to ask them one question. What moments stick out in your mind? Outside of the insane, absolutely batshit insane final 10 minutes, What moment from this movie will be remembered? I'm willing to bet that if you ask anyone that question in a few years, they're going to have a tough time answering that. Hey, you know what? At least as crappy as Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was, I remember moments from it. Not in a good way, but I remember stuff from it. At least it's memorable. I remember the goofy looking gophers. I remember the atomic bomb where Indiana Jones hid in a stupid fridge and survived that. I remember Shia LaBeouf swinging through the trees like Tarzan on these vines with these CGI monkeys. I remember shit like that. I'm not going to remember fucking anything about Dial of Destiny in a few months. Hell, I probably won't remember it by the time I finish editing this video. And the ultimate irony, too, about these last Indiana Jones movies is that they have had much bigger budgets, especially this one, compared to the originals, but they look significantly worse visually than the much cheaper original trilogy. Where in the original trilogy, because they were made practically, it looks really good, and they're made quick, and they're made dirty, and you have Steven Spielberg, him being an excellent filmmaker behind the camera. This was him during his prime. And then you have this movie where it's so obvious what is CGI because everything looks really fuzzy and out of place, and especially during the finale, you can tell like all the green screens that are around. They have to digitally insert Harrison Ford's face on top of a stunt man because Harrison Ford can't do some of the stunts in this movie that they're doing. You have him dodging trains on a horse and it looks fake. It just way overuse of CGI, which feels extra wrong considering Indiana Jones is famous for its practical effects and stunts. And zoning in on one element of the special effects in particular is that I am so over this whole digitally de-aging shit. I find it just irritating at this point. And it's not the worst I've ever seen with the digital de-aging shit that they do with Harrison Ford in the prologue in this. But it doesn't look great in most lighting. In like harsh shadows, it looks fine. It looks okay. But when it's fully lit, it just looks, his like young CGI face in the opening just looks weird and waxy, and it just, something about it just looks off. And it doesn't help too, and I don't know why they keep doing this, where they want to digitally de-age these actors, but they want to use their modern voices. So you have Harrison Ford, young-looking CGI Harrison Ford, but with old man Harrison Ford voice and physicality. And it just creates this really just unnerving, weird, creepy effect that I did not like. And do you guys remember, this is something that I thought about too during the movie. Do you guys remember when The Force Awakens was announced? And Lucasfilm, especially J.J. Abrams, made this whole song and dance about how, oh, practical effects are making a comeback, everybody. Look, we're using actual sets. Look, we're using makeup. Look, I'm J.J. Abrams. Look at me. There's this puppet that's sitting next to me. Look, there's a puppet. See, guys, we have a commitment now to practical effects. Yeah, what a load of shit. that was a load of shit in hindsight, especially when considering how wazoo they went with CGI in the last few Star Wars movies, where they have these stupid looking camels running around in a casino in Last Jedi, or they're riding literal horses on top of a starship in the whatever the fuck the final one, episode 9, the really shitty one. But yeah, that was a lie. I knew it was a lie back then, and I was right. That was total bullshit. And as far as the cast goes, I mean, they're not bad. I honestly, I don't even think Phoebe Waller-Bridge was as annoying as I expected her to be. Just like the trailers, I was like, oh god, they're gonna do the typical modern Lucasfilm thing with the annoying girl boss. And they're gonna be like, sit down, old man. Let the strong, independent woman, the stereotypical strong, independent woman, take charge. They don't do that, thankfully. But she's still not good. I mean, outside of her, it's a pretty decent cast. You got Harrison Ford, who's, even at this age, he's still pretty charismatic. You have Antonio Banderas in a much quicker role than I expected. You have Toby Jones. You got Mads Mikkelsen. I mean, even Mads Mikkelsen, who on paper seems like the perfect Indiana Jones villain. I mean, I could see him in the older movies playing a Nazi villain. I really can. So he seemed perfect, but he's just so forgettable in this role. Again, it's not his fault. A decent cast can only do so much with the boring material they're given. So I put the script on blast. Like, I really do think it's the script's fault that these actors are just blah. And speaking of blah, the music, which, again, this is one of the most iconic things about Indiana Jones, is the music, especially the Raiders March. But even with John Williams at the helm, similar to his newer Star Wars scores, it's just bland and forgettable. I really do think that and I agree with Red Letter Media. I think it was Rich Evans who said that he's not convinced that there wasn't some kind of ghost composer behind the scenes, where they just had John Williams do like a couple themes and they have his name being plastered all over the movie as the primary composer, but then they have composers in the background that are really making the actual music. Because this music, this new original music in the new Star Wars trilogy and this movie, it's not good. It's just forgettable. I don't remember a single new original tune from the new Star Wars trilogy. I don't remember a single new tune from this Indiana Jones movie. And I just don't get it. Either he just has completely lost it at this point. I mean, he's 97 years old. I mean, I'm going to give the guy a little bit of a break, considering what a fucking legend John Williams is. But man, when you get a guy like that to do your music and it sounds like this, you have to wonder if there wasn't some chicanery going on behind the scenes. Fuck, when Tarantino got the late great Ennio Morricone to do the score for Hateful Eight, holy shit, what a fucking score. I mean, man, that to me is like one of his best scores, Ennio Morricone. And he was close to the final years of his life. He was in the final years of his life doing that. And man, it really showcased his talent even at that age. Don't get the same vibe from John Williams, unfortunately. So, And now comes the point where I have to spoil the movie. So, if you would all give a shit about seeing this movie at this point, or don't want to hear what happens, just end here. Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny, it's not good. I don't recommend seeing it. If you really want to see it, if you really feel like, for me, like similar how I felt, some kind of contractual obligation to see it, just wait for Disney Plus. Just wait till you could see it at home. You could pause it and just go take a piss in the middle of it or something, or go grab some snacks. Don't take a trip to the theater to see this. It's not worth it. So anyway, the final 10 minutes where they just stop giving a fuck and go, fuck it, where they have Indiana Jones and Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Not Short Round and the villains. They end up, thanks to the Dial of Destiny, they end up in ancient Greece during a battle with the Romans. There came a point where I turned to my friend when they were going through that portal, that big butthole in the sky. I turned to my friend and I said, I really wouldn't be surprised at this point if they were to go through that portal and we saw dinosaurs or something. I really was expecting that. But they do just like a really weird, rushed ending with that. And the James Mangold, he said a while back, he was trying to discredit some of the people that were throwing around this rumor that there were reshoots of the ending because the material that they shot tested really poorly. And he said, no, that's not true. There's no reshoots. There's only one ending that we did for Dial of Destiny. Everyone else, you guys are just trolls. After seeing the movie, I don't believe him. I don't, because the ending to this movie is really rushed and strangely paced and edited, And it just feels like it's like, oh, fuck, we gotta end this. And they just quickly wrap this shit up in the last 10 minutes. They don't give any of this room to breathe or have the dramatic weight that it should for the final movie in the fucking franchise. So, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Mangold. I am not convinced that there weren't reshoots. I really do believe that. I really do believe the rumor that this was tested. They shot an original ending, probably where Indiana Jones dies, but it tested poorly, and they had to go back and bring Harrison Ford back and bring all the cast back. They had to be like, fine, fuck it. We'll hire Karen Allen again to play Marion as like a cameo. Fuck it. So just so they could give people the happy ending that I guess they wanted. And again, I this ending, in theory, I don't mind, where he reconciles with Marion at the end of his adventure. He finds himself again. On paper, in the hands of a much more competent group of producers and writers and a director who knows how to shoot action comedy really, really well, I could see maybe this working out as like a farewell to the character. I could see it working out if they had just cut this shit down to about like an hour 50 to 2 hours, focus on practical effects, get fucking Phoebe Waller-Bridge out, have Marion play a much bigger role in this. I think I can honestly see this maybe being okay. Maybe not good, maybe not great, definitely not holding a candle to the originals, but it could be okay. Something like a Top Gun Maverick, something in that respect. But no, modern Lucasfilm, they can't help themselves. They have to inject their boring fucking sludge of a corporate interference nonsense into this movie as well. And they sucked all the talent out of James Mangold that I know he has, and they gave this fucking cast of the most bland script in the entire series, and they just said, go. And here's the result. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which is just lifeless and boring. And again, similar to what I said before the spoilers, I would not recommend seeing this in the theater. Honestly, like, if you're on the fence about it, I wouldn't even recommend seeing it in general. I just feel like there's something much better you could do with 2.5 hours of your time. And yeah, that's, again, this is yet another Lucasfilm series where they wrap it up, and it's so unnecessary. We didn't need 3 more movies after Return of the Jedi. We didn't need a 5th Indiana Jones movie. Fuck, at this point, I really do think they're just going to be like, let's do a sequel to American Graffiti. Let's do that. But, yeah, here we go. Indiana Jones, another victim of modern Lucasfilm. Good job, everyone. You made the most boring Indiana Jones movie out there. Congratulations. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all later. Bye.